that I've always been aware of being Puerto Rican, Black Puerto Rican, because my parents were first generation. My father was from Loíza, and African descendant of Puerto Rico. I was brought up in New York City. I'm Puerto Rican, and that intercontextuality of my experience drove the creation of the Caribbean Cultural Center. The mission of the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute is to look at the African contributions and traditions and continued manifestations of the traditions that are rooted in Africa in the Americas. And in the United States, you learn about the African-American U.S. experience, and you do not learn about the incredible, impactful contributions that African descendants have made from Latin, Central, and the Caribbean. We do work at the elementary school, we do work with artists, we do work at the junior high school level in terms of technology. We do work at the college level. And we've done conferences in Nigeria, Brazil, Cuba, Haiti, Trinidad, Santo Domingo, Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, you know what I mean? So that the work has been enriching, and it has been a process of us learning so that then we can present it to our public. In the diaspora, we don't learn about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not part of the conversation or the learning of our young people. And they feel dislocated because they don't understand their experience. You're Puerto Rican, why? You're Puerto Rican, what makes you a Puerto Rican? It's not only rice and beans and pastel at Christmas, right? It's a mentality, it's an understanding of tradition, of value, of those people who have made a contribution to history. And by the exclusion of our experience in the educational process, by generations of exclusion, then you become invisible.
I identify as Afro-Latino, so whenever I would search this term, I would come across Dr. Marta Moreno Vega being such a champion for the issues, for being reflected, for identity when it comes to being Black in the Latin American context.
The conversations that you are able and the content that we disseminate in social media is pretty much like a product of our own conversations that we have internally as an institution.
We advocate for social media because we like the idea of creating spaces. Like, for instance, we do a bunch of events throughout the year, but actually occupying spaces online and, rallying against issues that affect African descendants, that's, to me, is very powerful. So on our Twitter, they'll find current issues, they'll find historic issues and articles and tidbits. And on our Facebook, that's where we have the most audience. But we also want to stay very current and provide people just a safe space for people to have these conversations.
The type of media that we disseminate is really important so people can actually see themselves. I think that reflection really assists people in the process of finding themselves and understanding that it's our birthright to have a place in the world and a voice in this world.
New York is the representation of the world. You have Asian, Native American, Latino, the breakout of Dominican, Panamanian, lo que sea. But yet, even though we're the majority population in New York City, the funding to our institutions are less than acceptable. So that to maintain an institution takes dedication, commitment, takes a group of people, because I don't do it by myself. It takes a group of people that love their culture, that love themselves. We have staff that are artists in the schools and have worked in the schools. We have an education coordinator who approaches the schools and talks about our programming. The importance of education is key, but the content of that education is more key. Because if you have an education that's lacking the reflection of the population that you're teaching, then that is miseducation. And our role is to provide an education that is inclusive. We have to learn to respect and value the other, so the others will respect and value us. So that in our work, what we're presenting is information that young people, our leadership, our future leadership would not have if the Caribbean Cultural Center didn't exist. So for us, it's a continuous process of researching information, documenting information, developing programming to share that information within the school system, outside the school system, to the broader community that we represent in New York City and in the nation. Well, I'm very happy to announce that we've renovated a firehouse, a historic firehouse, and it's on 125th Street between Lexington and Park. What is beautiful and why we wanted to be in East Harlem is because it's still a sense of community. And if you don't have a nation that has community, you, in my opinion, are destroying the fabric of what it is to be human. Because we all need community. We're humankind. We're social animals. You walk around and la gente te dice, buenos días, ¿cómo está? You know, there is that sense of community, and we still can salvage it. And I hope that the center is part of that. The reality is that if we're not in it together, in terms of working together to support our families, to support our community, then there's a deficit. Our reality is that we're fluid, and, you know, not only in gender terminology, but in experience, in education, and in the knowledge base that we bring. So that to label, to me, is scary because I've been labeled and I refuse to be labeled.